Hey guys, I am really excited about this show. I have a lot to go over in a very short amount of time. I want to get this out as soon as humanly possible. So I'm just going to get right into it. The main topic of the, I guess you'd say, hour, although it'll be hopefully much less than that. Uh, I should say I could talk for a very long time on this stuff, but I'm going to keep it short. I want to get as much information to as many people in a short amount of time. So we'll be talking about central bank digital currencies as a whole. We'll be going over why they're scary. We'll be going over kind of USD a little bit, why USD is scarce, why people want it, what could happen to it, that kind of thing. We'll be going over like our solution for those issues, like for the coming central bank digital currencies, for the the issues with USD right now, and the fight for a new reserve currency. So I'm going to be going over all of those things, and I think we're going to start right now with USD. So basically, at this point, we're working obviously in a lot of countries, and especially countries like Brazil, Nigeria, even South Africa, really Zambia, Zimbabwe, all these countries, and pretty much most of the world is going through unprecedented inflation. Why does that matter? We're also going through inflation here in the US, and it's pretty drastic, and sometimes it seems unreal. And it's even harder to believe that other people could be going through it worse. But surprisingly, they are. And so that's the only reason that a lot of these countries are flooding to the dollar. Even though the dollar's gone down significantly, they're all flooding to the dollar. So you have the dollar going down, but just at a slower rate. So you have the pound, which was 2-to-1, like really equal and parallel with it. You had the euro, which I believe last time I was in Europe was, if I'm not mistaken, 2-to-1 at least. I thought it was 2.2-to-1. Then you have you have a lot of currencies that are, well, the South African rand was 14.5 to $1. Now it's 18 to $1 in literally a year. So you have this massive inflation. Everybody's running to protect their wealth, and right now they're running to the dollar. They have, in fact, the way it's all set up right now is they almost have to get dollars to make their global payments through SWIFT. So you have this huge demand. But even before all this stuff happened, there was obviously a big demand for USD. It's hard to make payments in these local currencies, especially whenever your markets, like Zambia, Zambia's a pretty good one, but you have a lot of these small economies, and there's not hardly any demand for their local currency. The Zimbabwean bond, I guess, would be one of those. But they need to make payments because they're buying all their goods and services from China, from Europe, actually a lot of their services do come from China, their infrastructure, but they're having to pay out and somehow exchange those bills or those dollars or bonds or whatever they're called in that country to something that would allow them to send the payment. So I saw that. We saw that as a company, and that's why we've kind of gone the direction we've gone. So now I'm going to move on to central bank digital currencies, and I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about central bank digital currencies all the time. Basically, you have a lot of countries. You're seeing they're moving towards them. They're, like the U.S. I talk about like the federal dollar or the digital dollar. You have the ruble. They're making the digital ruble, and the entire idea behind it is to move to a completely cashless digital system. So why is that bad? You might say, like, from a cryptocurrency point of view, that sounds awesome. And it does sound awesome. Like, digital currency, like they're finally taking shape. There's finally some mass adoption to digital currencies. The issue is that this is nothing like a cryptocurrency. It's complete opposite. So the ability to hold your own money in your own wallet, send it, nobody's in control of it, that doesn't apply here. The reason, really, I would say, like, one of the biggest reasons is they abolish your privacy, number one. So you have zero privacy. You have a government with a ledger. They can see inside of every single wallet all across the world. So you might have a bank in Dubai, and they know exactly who holds what, exactly how much they're spending, and what they're sending each dollar to. And I find it pretty ironic because that's what I did. Like, you guys have heard me even say, like, I talk about central bank digital currency system way before it was a hot phrase. That's what we put everything into. We just put it into the wrong country. I won't get into that. We put it into the wrong country, and now we're making that right. But we built an entire system, spent years doing it, for central bank digital currencies. And for some reason, it's pretty crazy, but like, it didn't quite compute. Like, it didn't quite hit me until just recently why they're scary. And when I thought of it, I'm like, you know what? Wow, it's pretty crazy. So the privacy, honestly, is not even the biggest deal. That can be minimal. It depends on who you are. It depends on where you're at. Like, if you're in, I'm not going to name any countries because we're working in a lot of countries. But there's big countries right now, and that would be scary as hell for them to know exactly who you're giving money to. If you're giving money to a political party, if you're which should be not a big deal. I mean, you want a level of privacy, and it's interesting to think of actually cash being a decentralized compared to a normal digital currency. Because if you think about it, when you get that bill in your wallet, you can walk down to the store and you can take it out and pay it, and nobody can stop you. Nobody can stop you. Nobody knows what you have in that wallet. You have a digital currency ledger, and unlike McCullah wallet or another blockchain wallet, they don't see you as just a number. They don't see you as a anonymous number. They see you as Stephen McCullah. Your serial number is 857123449. Like Julie Andrews. They know everything about you. They know it's you, basically. And so you better file every single payment on your taxes correctly, basically, at that point, because if not, you're in trouble. But it's crazy because right now, I mean, like I said, cash is fairly decentralized in a way. I mean, and that's weird to think about it as being that. And even whenever your cash is in a bank, the bank is not directly tied to the government. They right now have to report like transactions over 10,000. There's a few things they have to report. Well, by and large, the government, until recently, I think that they did pass something where they can see in certain cases inside of your bank account. But basically, there's a barrier there, especially overseas. You have a lot of banks, and like now that cash is in there, and then they have their own internal ledgers. So it's, in a way, it's decentralized. It's centralized locally. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Local centralization instead of global centralization. And on a global level, so whenever you have a reserve currency like the dollar, and they can go through And at any point, they can instantly pause your account. They can instantly freeze your account. They can instantly pause everything. Kind of like, I believe it was, BSC chain. Boom. All transactions frozen. That can happen. It can be hacked. Could be, whenever you get to that point and they have that amount of power, you have no freedom. You do if they allow you to have freedom. And if they don't allow you to have freedom, then you don't have freedom, basically. And that's why I've become very outspoken and why I saw that as an upcoming issue. And really, so going into, I got my list here so I can stay focused. So right now, you have the dollar is the reserve currency, and then you have one way to send funds, actually send funds, and that is SWIFT. So SWIFT uses intermediaries, and they use correspondent banks, and they use a financial messaging system to send money. Even places, even companies like RippleNet, you still have to pre-fund with SWIFT. So you're not really getting around SWIFT. What we built is both, essentially, and that's why Knox Wire is revolutionary, and that's why we have royal families in the Middle East. That's why we have major investors in Europe, in Switzerland, in Germany. We have really every time we go and speak, we are getting massive proposals for investment. We're getting proposals to push us. We're getting proposals to roll us out in regions, and that's what we have been working on. So we combine, in short, and this is what makes Knox Wire big, because there's only 3 companies that really, in my opinion, have any viability in terms of international cross-border transactions, like international real-time gross settlement transactions, or in the financial messaging realm. There's only one financial messaging system that's viable whatsoever. And what we do is we marry both of those things. We marry the nearly instant with a RippleNet, the real-time gross settlement system, with the SWIFT financial messaging system that central banks, all of these large powers have to have. And we also do it in a way that's not, that allows them to, work around the traditional system without having to go all in on crypto. They're able to use a distributed ledger technology without having to necessarily integrate a blockchain. And a lot of countries are willing to go ahead and integrate, and they're not afraid of crypto, and which is phenomenal. But I've been to 11 central banks, and I've seen a lot of differences, and I think we're getting there, but we're not quite there. So if you're going to have something that is going to compete and be at the level of SWIFT, it's going to have to be something that is somewhat neutral, and it's going to have to start off that way at least, and then move towards the side of maybe more in line with the centralization. But it can't. I'll get into that another day. But essentially, we're big. We're going to be big. We're already becoming very big. Because we are marrying what has to happen in the market. Like I said, I've gone to 11 central banks, and almost probably 90% of those, if not 95%, always ask me, can you help me make payments? Why is that? Number one, they can't get access to USD, they have restrictions on it. There's a lot of different reasons, but they always need help with payments. And I thought that was fascinating. Way more than even they needed a central bank digital currency. They needed to make payments. That's why I started Knox Wire in South Africa. I saw that. I'm like, well, we can do that. So that's the next thing. So basically, what I've been doing is, number one, I had to build it. Number one, we had to build it. There's a lot of people than just me. We had to build it. Then we've got to get the base. So we got base clients. You have our financial institutions that we're getting on, those payment institutions. Phase 3 is the fun phase. That is the central bank phase. We go in there. That's one of the big things this investor wants to go into, that I have mentioned, is those central banks. So those are pretty fascinating. I better hurry because this is already getting long. But I'm going to go into, so now I've talked about what are the issues with the dollar. I've talked about why central bank digital currencies are scary. I've talked about why Knox Wire really stands out in the market. Why is it going to be better than Ripple? Why is it going to be better than Swift? Those are the two things that we've had to look at and say, they are the most successful in my opinion. And that's why I put everything into this, because I know we can compete with them. And really, in all due fairness with Ripple, I really like Ripple. I love their business model. We're just doing something different. We're competing head on with Swift, and I think that's why we've gotten so many proposals, and like why we're getting a lot of attention now, because people aren't used to that. It just doesn't happen. So it's interesting that way. So now we're moving on to the central bank reserve currency. So our solution on Knox Wire to solve the issues with USD being hard to get, being a little bit of a stickler currency, and the upcoming central bank digital currency movement that people are going to have to abide by. So, like, whenever they're sending, whatever currency, I won't name any of them, but basically so that they don't have to worry about them being retracted or, paused, and there's a lot of different scenarios. So why is the central bank reserve currency, why could it be big, basically? And why could it be an asset to Knox Wire? This is why. So number one, it's simple, trustless, it's got instant liquidity, it really has almost unprecedented utility or usability. Especially as a stable coin. So I'll kind of explain that. So you have like USDT, USDC. These are massive companies. You think about, like, can you go and take your USDT and can you send that same day, or even like on a system that lets you pay a payment even within like the next day in 150 countries? No. Like, you can't even put it into a bank account and like liquidate it. Like, you've got to basically send it to an exchange, you liquidate it like Binance, then you have it into that. You have it into you have that into like a USD wallet, and then that wallet you can withdraw, which goes Swift to your bank, which is 3 to 5 days, could be 2 weeks, and when that finally gets to your bank, it's in USD, so I guess that's the thing, and it has to go to your bank. Imagine being able to hold a stablecoin like that has like projected like growth in terms of being hedged on 3 metals exactly, industrial metals, and yeah. So imagine that, and then you are able to spend that and send that to any country. Like, I basically convert that to USD to any other local currency instantly. That's massive. That's absolutely huge. There's nothing like it. So I think one of the things that we're really focused on right now is building this infrastructure on Knox Wire and really making it so that, nothing else that comes out and then in the short term can really compete with it. That's the goal. Okay, so those are like that's kind of like the main premise behind it. I think I've already mentioned that it's strategically backed by 3 precious metals. So you have not just one. So you think about, thinking about Pax Gold. So Pax Gold, which is probably, in my opinion, one of the safest, stable metal-backed coins. It's only backed by gold, though. So in my case, I bought a lot of Pax Gold. I like it. I like the company. But even Pax Gold, number one, it's backed only by gold, like I said, and gold just went down like 15 or 20%. So you have a situation where literally you can, like, that stable asset, if it was only backed by gold, could lose 15% of its value, which actually could be worse than holding USD in the first place, which is, what the whole benefit is that you're trying to sell. So what we said was, let's back it with 3. You don't want to back it with 5 because you need it to be simple, kind of that first sales point. So making it simple, strategically backing it with 3 precious metals, 2 of which, so you have gold, the stability of gold, plus two precious metals that are mainly focused on industry. So you have these metals which are used in, like, electronics and a lot of the industrial purposes that we know are going to increase, that have to increase for society to keep functioning. So they're pretty much as safe as you can get. If you have to get something, if you have to invest in something, at least these may not go up to, well, they actually could in some cases, but like, I'll give you an example. So the 5 times growth, I think, into like, well, on set, I think it was palladium, which is one we're looking to use, and platinum. One of them had a 5 times growth potential. I think up to are projected over until 2025, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but on Forbes, I think Forbes was the. I'll show you our documentation. It's very interesting, but it shows you, by hedging against 3 instead of 1, you're not held to the market. So it's not gonna kill you if one goes down. If all 3 of them do, it's still a lot safer than having it into 1, and definitely way, way, way safer than a fiat currency right now with all the printing going on. I better move on. Let's see. So essentially, at that point, so you have something that is simple. Like I said, it's backed by 3 things. It's strategically backed to, but most probably increase, if not stay at the same level. So it's most likely deflationary by hedging on those 3 metals, gold, palladium, and platinum. And the biggest thing, in my opinion, is usability. So what I mentioned in the very beginning, allowing you to basically liquidate that at any amount to USD and send that with that stability anywhere in the world. USD can't, there's no stable coin that can compete with that. And people can't get USD. So, so it's basically we can give them all the usability of USD with more security, with more, basically potential for growth, without any of the major issues in terms of being stopped up, worst case, and they don't have to mess with potential issues with the new digital currency coming out. Because this is on a distributed ledger, so it has a large degree of autonomy. So I mean, it's something that it's an easy sell. That's why we have so many people interested in it right now. That's why central banks are hitting us up. That's why we have this. We have large investors interested in taking us forward to central banks. Between CBRC, I guess that marriage, that combination between CBRC and Knox Wire, it's basically it's like combining the best, in my opinion, the best reserve currency with the best payment systems in the world. And yeah, I mean, just marrying those together, and people are excited. People are seeing that there's a solution out there, that they don't have to just succumb to these things like the 15% business tax, like these external pressures where 4% of the population is forcing 96% of the population to do basically bend to their whims because, or their agendas, because it's because they can, because they own the financial system. So so I kind of poured out my heart in terms of how I feel about central bank digital currencies, why I am passionate about a solution and making sure that solution comes to fruition. That's why I've kind of buried my head down and focus on this thing, because I know that this can carry us forward, and this can take us forward in a way that nothing can. I mean, you have trillions of transactions, or trillions of dollars in transactions happening through SWIFT at a daily rate. There's no larger thing that we can do at that point. Even a central bank digital currency on a single nation, unless it was the US or China or something like that, wouldn't even compare. In my opinion, if we even get a fraction of the market that I'm seeing us already getting, I'm just really excited about it. I'll end it with that. So I have a lot more to talk about. I'm going to have to cut and do another. I had to refilm without the fees part. I had to refilm without the exchange part. I'm going to have to go back and do that later. I'm going to have to go back and do a video on some of those extra things, because this is getting way too long. I don't want to cause any more delays. I definitely do not want to do that. So guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate all your patience. I will be in and out of the community as I can. Love being in there. I'm in there even though I'm crazy busy, even though we're absolutely inundated. I love being in there, and I'll definitely come in as soon as I possibly can to help answer out some of those little things. I'll probably just do some voice notes on the fees. There's not that much more that I haven't said, but I don't think a lot of people have maybe heard some of the past AMAs. So guys, have a wonderful day. God bless, and stay tuned.